shrouds.
You can get a different view. But in the light stuff, I like the rig to be fairly loose, and I like because as soon as you tighten up the rig, the forestay goes tight, the jib becomes very sensitive, and the boat becomes quite hard to steer. I think if you can steer very well in those conditions, you can probably get away with more rig tension. But generally, I like the boat to feel okay. One of the questions was pointing in lighter winds. This boat's got a travel arrangement on it. If you can't get the boom above centreline in the lighter stuff, you're going to struggle with height against boats that can. So if your boat is set up the same as everybody else's, then you need to look at something else. But if your first problem is you can't get your boom in the same position as everybody else, that's going to be a limiting factor. So in the light conditions, I'm trying to look at centering this first batten on the centre line, so the boom can come above centre line, and it can actually come quite a way if you're sailing with a fair bit of twist. And I look to get the first batten on centre line, so that's kind of where I want to be on that. Yeah, that's the lowest batten. Yeah, the lowest batten on centre line. So yeah, that set up like that's probably 3 inches lower than the boom, so that means you can pull the boom 3 inches up. So you need flow in the sail, obviously, but once you've got that, you should be okay.
What happens to your top batten at that point, the top end of the sail? If you're travel to weather that you know it's not too much, how do you know what I mean?
I don't pull any vang on until I'm looking to put the crew on the trapeze. So I leave the vang uncleated and I control it with sheet tension, which is, I use a centre main sheet. With a transom sheet, that's probably slightly more difficult to do. Who's centre and who's transom?
I think we're all transom.
You're all transom, right? Okay. Well, I think centre's easier to keep it consistent because you can pull the boom up and down with the sheet. With this, you very quickly shut off the sail. So I think you have to have a little bit of bang just so you can play the sheet a bit through the pressure changes. But until the crew's going on the wire or looking to go on the wire, I don't pull any bang on. And then there's a few transition points. Obviously, if the crew's sitting on the centreboard case,
You shouldn't be sailing.
you shouldn't be sailing, but you're fully focused on just keeping the boat moving. Height's really irrelevant. You need the boat to be moving. So just keep the boat rolling, put the bow down and ease the jib. And in fact, often if the crew's doing that, I'll take the jib sheet and I'll play the jib, because it's much easier to ease the jib when you've got a chance to come up and accelerate the boat and then come up, than just put the boat up with the jib sheeted in. The boat's just going, and it doesn't go. So ease the jib and then kind of pull the two over as you go in. And then the crew can't really get to the jib and it will kind of fold you in half. So if you hold the jib sheet in your hand, that's much more effective than playing the main in those conditions, because the main's kind of just a static thing. The jib's actually moving through the air a lot more. Then once the crew comes up and is sitting on the tank with you, the dynamics of the rig have changed a little bit. You've now got enough power that all the things you were doing to get the boat going flatten out in there, you start to sort of shake out. You can probably ease the foot a little bit in the mainsail to give yourself a bit more power. And if you look, where's the outhaul on the boom there? Yeah. Paul, do you want to just ease the outhaul? As soon as you ease the outhaul and you get a bit of depth because you now need a bit of power, what you'll find is you get a lot more return on the first batten. So the first batten is now giving you a lot more power and height.
Are you talking about first the lowest or
the first, the lowest?
Oh.
I don't care about the battens at the top. Honestly, this is the first two are the ones that really matter. So as soon as you do that, you've got a bunch more return. It really happens really quickly. So you can actually sail with a bit more twist and the boom a bit further to windward in that transition and get the boat moving through the water faster, and then kind of change gear and start pulling the boom back down again. So you can accelerate and then power. And that gets the crew through that transition onto the wire much more effectively. I ease the shrouds at that point. If I've tried to flatten the sail with shrouds, I ease a little bit back to really give me absolute maximum. I pull a little bit of ram down, and then you find there's that easy transition from the tank to the wire. So you kind of go through that, because I think several people were talking about that challenge. The other thing through those conditions that is really, really good to do. Okay, Paul, you can be a tiller now.
Hey Mike, when it was really light,
And steer with it on there, so that if you come up here, the tiller's kind of like, you're doing that, and you're losing a lot of lift off of the rudder, and you're probably oversteering. So putting it on the deck just damps it all down, and you can just sort of control your feel there.